We are going to do our top 10 players. Let's begin. 10th spot.
This is going to go down like a lead balloon over the course of this next hour and a half. There are so many people that are going to be like, how dare he? I'm putting Watkins in at 10.
Watkins is in my 10.
Same.
Well, so for me, I mean, Ollie Watkins always for me has been, at least in my own personal chat room that is my brain, he has always been like a poster boy for that very smart recruitment from Brentford. Saeed Benrahma, Ollie Watkins, came in there from Exeter. I wanted Palace to sign him for years because he had that about him. You knew that he was going into the Premier League. You knew that he wouldn't be overawed by the Premier League. And, you know, you look at his growth as a player at Villa. He has really, I think, stepped up to the plate in terms of being... I mean, you look at Unai Emery at the moment, he's got them absolutely flying. Ollie Watkins does not look out of place in that side at all. In fact, he's leading the charge.
Since the World Cup, he has a total of 31 goal involvements in 2023. The only English player with more, and of course he's moved country, is Harry Kane with 41. 31 goal involvements. Do you know what's a big thing, I think, actually, in terms of putting this list together, is fitness as well? Like, he's I mean, dare I say it? I'm sorry, Villa fans. This ain't on me. You got a busy Christmas period, all right? But Watkins is always fit.
Well, yeah, when I
say the phrase. Come on,
James. What is the best ability?
It's availability, Daniel.
Yeah.
It's
If you're not fit,
you are not it.
That's exactly it.
Clearly.
And my list is full of players that are consistently available, and you need to be available to be considered in a year-end list when you're talking about the best players of 2023.
Being where he is has obviously been fantastic for him, and having that little break, he's like, he's one of those few top players that had a break. Is he world class?
Again, if you ask Villa fans, it's not even a question. And it's one of those for me. I mean,
is he world class to you?
Yeah, for me he is, because he is leading the charge. I mean, I had this conversation with someone the other day. City, undeniably, despite their poor run of form of late, almost have to still be considered favourites for the title, despite the fact they're sitting fourth as we record this. If you're going to do that, you have to throw Villa into the conversation because it's disrespectful not to. So for me, if you're in a title race and you are leading the charge for a team that are fighting on European and domestic fronts simultaneously, scoring goals and playing your archetypal leading man, then you have to be considered as a world-class operator.
So he's your number 10?
Mm-hmm.
Kweku, who's your number 10?
At number 10, I've gone with a number 10, James Maddison.
He's gone Maddison.
I've gone James Maddison. You see the effect that he had at Spurs as soon as he came through the door. A traditional number 10 of sorts, and has had the transformative effect. It's the eye test of James Maddison. Obviously, he gives you numbers, but also just watching him play football, watching how progressive he is and how much he wants the ball. It's refreshing to see, and it's a harkback or throwback to an era gone by. I really, really like what he's brought to the Spurs team. And you see the fact that Spurs are struggling right now, not just because of his injury, but because they've got a plethora of injuries. But he's also a player that brings so much, not just necessarily on the pitch, but off the pitch as well.
He is in my 10. He's not number 10, though, for me. So in 10th spot, I've gone for Pascal Gross.
I like it.
Hipster lean, anyone?
No, hipster lean for sure. He just missed out on my one. I'll let you go on Pascal Gross.
I couldn't put him in mine.
No,
of course you could.
Oh well, yeah, I mean, your list is a mess now.
I know. See, this is what happens. You see.
So Pascal Gross, his performances for Brighton have seen him get selected for Germany after a 12-year absence from the national team. In the last calendar year, assists per 90, 0.27. That's the top 3%. Shot creating actions per 90, 4.22, top 6%. Progressive passes per 90, 8.5, top 8%. Like many people on this list, there is a video on Pascal Gross on the James Lawrence Allcott channel. So I'll try not to spam it too much with promotion. But there's one on Pascal Gross, and we did speak about how he's probably the most underrated player in the league. And again, I think an important thing to remember is this isn't who are the best 10 players. This is who's had the best year. All right, so I'll go again. Declan Rice, 9th.
I've got him higher.
I've got him higher as well.
West Ham had So this is the thing. This is the problem. West Ham in the Premier League were poor. I guess they actually probably had a better second half of the season, which got them out of trouble. Declan Rice is a great example of that world-class player that West Ham fans... And I always want to say that because West Ham fans were saying that. And then you see pundits or co-commentators, predominantly male co-commentators and pundits, saying, "Oh, look at the run. Wow, he can play as an 8. Like he could drive with the ball for a long time." But yeah, I just think I couldn't sneak him up any higher than that. I think he's astounding, and I think he's also lifted a trophy, which is huge. So maybe I'm getting this wrong, but I popped him in ninth place. Great move, great year for him.
I mentioned Martin Keown just a second ago. He was on TV roughly a month ago, and he said something along the lines of, I knew he was good, but I didn't realise he was this good. And I'm thinking, what have you been watching? Like, the guy has been the beating heart of West Ham for the best part of 3 or 4 years. You don't do that and to be fair, you know, you can look at West Ham as a fan base and say they're not an elite club in terms of competing for trophies every year. You can't just get by on vibes alone in the middle of that midfield week on week. You have to perform. And he has done that from a very young age, consistently, driven them on. Obviously, they've won the trophy that they've won, and that has elevated his profile. But I had no qualms with them demanding £100 million and getting what they got from Arsenal, because if you look at what he's done since, he's slotted in seamlessly to that team, and he looks every part a world-class player.
Yeah, I'm sort of I'm wondering if I've got this wrong a little bit. I think do you know why I've got him so low? Is I expect the levels that I've seen. I'm not surprised.
Yeah. So for you, it's the base.
It's not that. Yeah, it's sort of. It's just above the base, above that buttery biscuit base.
Also with Declan Rice, I've rewarded players who score goals in this list. Spoiler alert, because I think that's just the hardest thing to do in football. That's why we watch football, because of the goals. So Declan Rice is in the similar region. He's a little bit higher than you've got him in my list, but I just think his will doesn't get broken. I saw Chelsea play against Arsenal, go 2-0 up, and Odegaard didn't want it. He went off and he was pretty happy to go off. Declan Rice did not allow his will to get broken. He scored the goal and dragged them back into it. We've seen him chip in with winners as well. Goals against Luton, goals against Man United, another late winner against somebody else, can't remember. And the game that really stood out for me was Arsenal or Everton versus Arsenal at Goodison Park. Last year, that's the game that Arsenal lost. Their will was broken when they went to Goodison Park. This year, Declan Rice didn't score the goal, but they didn't lose that game because of Declan Rice, because he gives them that steel, he gives them that determination, and depending on what happens with Odegaard, you wouldn't be surprised to see Declan Rice with the armband very soon, because he does represent more than just what he does on the football pitch. He embodies any club he plays for.
I'm making a change. he's at 8 now. He's at 8 now. I'm going to move him down. I'm going to move someone else down 1. We'll come back to that. I'll tell you that. I'll reveal that in a second. Kweku, who have you got? Actually, I can reveal it because we've spoken about him. Maddison. I'm going to put Maddison 9th.
Okay. That makes sense.
That feels fairer now. Okay, I'm okay with that. Okay, who's your 9th?
We won't spend too much time on it. Ollie Watkins. But yeah, been really impressed with Ollie Watkins. We've discussed him at nauseum. I think he's such a good player, and I think it's good in its testament to good scouting, like you mentioned, like testament to what Brentford have got going on there, and the fact that he's gone on to do even greater things at Aston Villa is a credit to himself and credit to football in general. When it works, it properly works.
Okay. In 9th spot, Daniel.
Jared Bowen.
He's gone Bowen.
Ooh, interesting.
Do you want to know why? It's a podcast. I'll just be quiet. Jared Bowen embodies everything that West Ham fans want to see in their players. Of course, you can look at the final, the winning goal, etc., the Danny Dyer thing. It all, feeds into the narrative. But he is very similar to Ollie Watkins in a sense. Went to West Ham from Hull. There were certain people that were not sold on the idea of him becoming a success at Premier League level. He just seems to me to be an incredibly consistent attacking outlet. As you said, it's not an easy thing to do to score goals at any level, let alone in the Premier League. And when Jared Bowen isn't available for West Ham, their fans are devastated by it. Because I don't think, talk about the eye test, you can look at him and say, is he as dynamic as some of the players on this list? Is he as high profile? No. But in terms of being someone that they can rely upon and someone that embodies their club, I mean, Gio said to me, we've got players on our books, Kudus and Alvarez, they've got huge international followings. He said, in terms of shirt sales, it's Jared Bowen. He is the guy. And I think that in a way, even though we're not talking about numbers of shirt sales here, you look at what he means to West Ham United, I think he has to be on a list, given the 2023 he's had with the winning goal, because I think he just is West Ham at this point, particularly in the absence of Declan Rice after he went to Arsenal.
Do you know what? In terms of goals that have been scored that will be remembered in 2023, it's him and it's Rodri, and I think you could quite easily argue his goal will be remembered more intensely and for a longer time, because Man City, you would imagine, would inevitably go and kind of do it again. So I think for that, it's good that he's in someone's list. He's not making it on mine, though. Daniel.
8, Saka.
He's got Saka in 8. Whoa! The Twitter engagement goes through the roof. Buzzing. Okay. That is low for me, I'll be honest.
Low for me too.
State your piece.
Well, this sounds like a cop-out now. It's not. Bukayo Saka, for me, is an incredible footballer and someone that could easily be in the top 4 or 5 of this list. I feel as though he is such a consistently quality performer that if you look at his high ceiling, I wouldn't even suggest that he has played anything close to his top level yet. Because you look at his age and how much he has already done in the game, it's quite incredible when you actually think about him as an established Premier League star.
He's 22.
He's got an incredible... it's mad. And obviously the narrative around the missed penalty in the European Championship final, that sort of catapulted him to national fame in a sense, for not reasons that he would want, but I think I said it on Twitter the other day. There aren't many players outside of Palace that I truly admire and appreciate. I hear him talk, I see the way he goes about his game. I just think he's got everything that you need to be a superstar at a huge club. And even though I've got him down at 8, I think that's because in 2, 3, 4 years' time, he could go and have a season where he scores 20 goals and gets 10 assists and just be the absolute star of Arsenal in a title-winning team. So for me, even though he's been fantastic, I wouldn't put him above certain players in this list that I think have had better 2023s for them, if you see my point.
Right. Interesting. Okay. So in terms of outdoing his PB...
Yeah.
So you feel like his ceiling's incredibly high. Does he deserve to get a bit more credit because this lad's 22?
100%. It's the consistency, and it's what we said before. The best ability is availability. Bukayo Saka is always available for Arsenal. And you think about this Arsenal, not rebrand, but Arsenal resurgence. It doesn't happen without Bukayo Saka. He's the weight, he's the anchor for it because he's their star boy. He comes through the academy. He's somebody that obviously when he came to the team started playing in a different position. But without Bukayo Saka, you don't have this goodwill, this good feeling around Arsenal, who, let's be honest, barring the FA Cup in 2020, haven't actually won anything. But it feels like all these other teams that are trying to catch up to Man City are using Arsenal as an example. And part of that is Bukayo Saka. He is the example of what you want a star boy to be. Somebody who comes through your academy, the way he speaks, the way he plays football. And somebody made an interesting observation on Twitter. It's like, Bukayo Saka plays football like he's never played football in the cage with his boys. It's functional. It's efficient. It's not necessarily glossy, but he knows his job. And if you're a left back, you got a long day. You got a long day against Bukayo Saka because he, for some reason, he's not necessarily the most explosive, but he's deceptively strong. And he will just come into it on his left foot. He can even go on his right foot as well. And week after week, he's giving you numbers, whether that's goals, whether that's assists. And I just can't say too many good things about Bukayo Saka. I think he's one of the best players in the Premier League.
With my list, I was kind of thinking about who are the players that you lean on? Who gets you out of trouble? And I always think that when at a lower level, so when you played with players in a team that goes and wins something, you've got a guy who goes, thank God we got him. He'll get us out of trouble. And I think actually, to your point, Daniel, I don't think we've seen some of that, and I think that's why he is so important. And then when you mix that with the fact that he's 22, you're just like, wow, and he's so durable. That is a fear for me. I saw a stat this week. He got his debut under Unai Emery, and he's 22. And I was sort of like, what? I was trying to do the maths, but he's just been brilliant for a long time and played in different positions. He is so intelligent, so intelligent. I think the next thing. Again, back to your point, has he got the anger to go, right, give me the ball, let me fix this? That's what I want to see. I want to see the anger.
I think it's controlled anger. I watch him and I think, I've seen it for years. Like Zaha used to get kicked, he loses his head, right? And it's him, he wears his heart on his sleeve, that's the way Wilf is, whatever. Saka gets kicked relentlessly and he doesn't allow it to affect this. Or if it does, it affects him in a way where he's like, I'm not even going to show you that I'm annoyed. I'm just going to do it. But like you said, he doesn't do it by going and doing 4-step overs and embarrassing someone. He'll just drive past the ball to someone completely functionally and then you end up winning the game and he's just standing there like...
Yeah.
I think for Arsenal to win the league this year, you've got to have those guys that are going to step up for you. Declan Rice has been that guy in this first half, and that's why I've been able to bump him up. He is my 8th spot currently. We'll see. Saka, you need to have more than one, though. Man City have been able to do it, De Bruyne, but then, Haaland was the second guy who could do that for them. Gundogan was able to step up and do it for them. You've got to have more than one. 3's ideal. Is Saka that guy? We'll see next year.
I love the rebrand of Bukayo Saka as well in terms of when he first came in, happy, smiley, more steely. You see him on the runways doing Fashion Week. I'm like, oh, Bukayo Saka, you're a different guy now. Got the patented celebration, which I like to see. He's embracing being a superstar, and he understands what he means to that football club. He's front and centre of all the campaigns. He's front and centre of everything good that Arsenal do on the football pitch. And to me, the world's his oyster, second best right winger in the world, and soon, as when Mo Salah steps out the limelight, he's going to be the best winger in the world.
Yeah, well, when he stops being cute and we see the snarl, Dennis on.
Yeah.
Dennis really on. What a player. Right, 8th spot. I've got Rice. So, Kweku, who's your 8th
Yeah,
spot?
I've got Rice as well. I've got
Rice
Rice
okay.
as well, yeah. Obviously, wax lyrical about him, but he's an incredible player.
Okay, we're on our way back round to me. So, it's 7th spot for you, Kweku.
7th spot, Bernardo Silva.
What's low in it?
And this is. I think what your reaction to it is maybe making me reconsider.
That's
but
why this podcast is good.
I'll just tell you why I put him there. Bernardo Silva is a win for eye test football. Like, he's a win for people who actually want to watch football, because he doesn't necessarily give you the numbers consistently, although he does give you that sometimes. But in terms of the way he plays football, it's just a sight to behold. Almost a shame that his surname Silva, because he's never going to escape that shadow of David Silva, who everybody will laud as being one of the best centre midfielders in Premier League history, one of the best players. But because Bernardo Silva came after him and he kind of overlapped that era, I think he hasn't necessarily got the love from football fans that he should do. What an incredible footballer that last season Pep Guardiola uses a secret weapon, played in so many different positions, whether it's centrally, whether it's out wide, whether it's as a false nine, he can do it all. And I know that 7th on this list seems low, because I, again, have rewarded players that put the ball in the back of the net or have had bigger moments. But for me, Bernardo Silva is an absolutely beautiful player, and we have to appreciate him, because it seems that every single summer he's linked with a move away. And when he does eventually leave, he'll be one of these players that we talk about. Maybe he gets lost and forgotten in a generation, because there are so many players that do effective things in terms of goals and assists. But people of our generation will remember how good Bernardo Silva, and I think he deserves his flowers, despite the fact I put him 7th.
I'm so annoyed we're going to have to wait until I talk about Bernardo. We have to keep going. He is not in 7th spot for me. I can't believe
Throw
you
him
put
out of the
there.
studio.
That's shocking, mate.
I'm sorry.
I will also try and look to trademark Golden Silver. He's better than David Silva now. He's gone past David Silva.
Has he?
For me, yeah.
So he gets a statue outside their
I'm
tent.
not sure I
look
can
forward
go
to it.
quite
They're running out of
that
space.
far.
Sorry?
I'm not sure I can go quite as far
You're not
as
going
him
there.
being above David
I
Silva.
think just because you sometimes you've got to accept that, okay, this guy was there first. Bernardo Silva is a joke of a footballer. We'll return to that. Okay, 7th spot, I've got Trippier.
Ooh. He's not even in my 10.
He's not in your 10.
He's higher for me.
Is he?
Really?
Well, there you go. You got the full spectrum.
There you go. So Kieran Trippier, he's had a tough week. And since, again, another video on the channel, and since we've done that video, it has been atrocious. But in terms of Newcastle, where you see them now and where they've been taken to, he is such a symbol of that. And also as a right back, he's touched the ball so many times during a game. He's another playmaker for them. Defensively, generally very switched on. I think he is shattered right now, as is the rest of that team. And I know people don't like that as an excuse, but I think Newcastle, I think you can allow for it a little bit. I think the mental side of it as well, because I think I think there's a lot going on there when it comes to the Champions League as well. I think for what he was and how people saw him and how you see him now, I think you have to take your hat off if you are wearing one, or metaphorically if you're not, because I think he's just been so important in every single way. And I think a couple of bad games doesn't wash that away for me. So that's why I've gone in 7th spot. 7th spot, Daniel.
So 7th spot, this is controversial, this. Douglas Luiz.
Ooh-wee.
I just feel like...
Corner goal merchant,
Yeah,
the naysayers will say.
I don't want to be, most underrated player ever. But you talk to Villa fans, they adore this man. And that in itself, I mean, for me, we've said it already on the podcast, Villa are, I hesitate to call them a surprise package this year. I actually remember saying on a previous Ripple Effect episode with you that I thought Villa were going to have a fantastic season under Unai Emery. He just embodies, very similar to Watkins, being well coached, but being able to consistently give the bigger sides bloody noses. He is part of that team. They feel as bonded as any side in the league so far, for me. And he is such a versatile player for them that I just feel he deserves to be on the list. If anything, I couldn't put him any higher because there are so many quality players above him that it just felt a little bit like it was going to be playing with fire.
Yeah.
But he undeniably, for me, deserves to be in the 10 because of what he has offered to Aston Villa.
Yeah, one of the most underrated players in the league. Let's keep going. Daniel, I'll tell you what, we could just go to you. Whoever I go to, just speak. Okay. 6th spot, what are you going for?
I've got Declan Rice in at 6.
Okay. So I will go next. In 6th spot, I've got Ollie Watkins.
Nice.
I've put him in 6th just because I think generally teams are screaming for a striker that you can rely upon, that's going to score goals, that's going to be part of that build-up play as well. And he's everything, man. I think he's amazing. I think he's absolutely fantastic. And obviously people get so super excited about Højlund when he comes in or these other strikers that come in. Watkins is better than Højlund. Fact for me, okay? So he's my 6th spot. Kweku, who you got in 6th?
Martin Odegaard. Again, maybe a player that could be docked for his start to this season. It's not been at its
He's not in my list.
It's not in my list.
No, that's understandable. I remember Gary Neville talking a few years ago when Eden Hazard was in the Premier League, talking about having an unhealthy obsession with Eden Hazard. I've got as a Chelsea fan, I've got unhealthy obsession with Martin Odegaard. I absolutely love him. I think he's just, in terms of, again, eye test football, he just passes it so slick. And this season, Arsenal, very different. You saw it a little bit in the Luton game. He drops deeper. He's a deep lying playmaker now. Declan Rice is a bit further forward, and he allows Arsenal to play a little bit differently, have a bit more control. It's weird I pointed out the Luton game because they didn't really have much control in that one, but his position is slightly changing. He's now becoming a bit more deep lying, and I love the fact that he's got that versatility, because in my mind, Martin Odegaard can play in the number 10, and he can play in number 8, but the fact that he's now playing a little bit deeper speaks to his versatility. You wouldn't have thought of Martin Odegaard when he joined Arsenal as a leader, but he has got the captain's armband. And
I think you've seen it too, right?
You have seen it
At
too,
times.
and maybe he's a little bit more cerebral than you'd see in a traditional captain of a Premier League team that are going to trade to major honours. But he just seems to bring everything to a level with an Arsenal team that are very emotional. He kind of brings that down a little bit. I just love the way he plays football. I think he's got the potential to go and play for Arsenal, are one of the biggest teams in the world, got the potential to go back to Real Madrid and be one of those guys, eventually when Modric leaves. And Martin Odegaard, I'm surprised he's not in any of your list, because pound for pound in the Premier League in his day, he's a top 3 player for me.
Yeah, it's this season, sort of, let's call them growing pains. I think that mix between, say, what Angie's doing with Maddison and what Man City have, which of course we know Arteta looks at what Pep does a little bit, similar philosophies. I'm just trying to figure out what is Odegaard's future in that Arsenal team as you look to kind of utilise Havertz, and how do you get best out of him. The relationship between him and Saka, I think, is kind of changing. Ben White used often, but again, the team now is not the team. We did a podcast last week with Alex, who spoke about it brilliantly, that they are adding tools to their arsenal. That's not right. Weapons to their arsenal. And I think Odegaard is a moving part in that. And I wonder if it will lean towards a little bit more of that free role that we're talking about, where will he go and get involved a bit more, or will Arteta allow that with the structure that he likes?
Do you know Antoine Griezmann in the World Cup for France? And the reason why England lost against France, because Antoine Griezmann was allowed to do what he wants to drop in those spaces. Odegaard does that now for Arsenal, and he has a new dynamic. Oh, mate, I'm obsessed with him.
Yeah, I think I'd love to see them take the handbrake off and let him really, really do that. It'd be interesting to see how that works out. So 5th spot. Go on, Kweku, you go again.
Won't spend too much time on it. Kieran Trippier. I just think he's amazing. I think he's done so well since his move to Newcastle, and he, like we said, he embodies everything that this modern Newcastle is.
Okay, I've gone for Saka in 5th. I think I sort of started with him like right up the top, and then I just gently like moved him down past the other players. Again, it's about kind of who do you need and who's offered that for you. I think he's been absolutely brilliant, and I absolutely love him to bits. I think Odegaard is a little bit unlucky, because actually in the back end of last season, as disappointing as it was, he actually scored his stats kind of went up in terms of goals and stuff like that. So he did look to step up a little bit. But I think Saka is utterly irreplaceable for that Arsenal team on that right-hand side. He's so crucial. So he's my 5th spot. Daniel, who's your 5th?
Rodri
5th.
A
silence
clang
works its way through the studio.
Do you know what it is? Rodri is so good that I just, like you said, I just expect it from him.
Yeah.
It depends how you're going to quantify 2023, because we're into the upper reaches of the list now, and there are players that I haven't got on my list that I could quite easily have included. We can wax lyrical about another 10. It's not hard and fast. Obviously, Rodri could easily be number 1. I just look at what he offers, and I look at the consistency that he has, and maybe for me on a personal level, it's just what I expect from him. It's similar to what I said about Saka. You can talk about a 2023 as a fantastic footballer, or you could talk about what he potentially could do in 2024. And I still think there is room for Rodri to go to another level.
Really?
So I just, it sounds like a cop-out, but obviously as we're into the upper five now, you know, every single player on this list is a truly exceptional footballer. And with him, obviously he's had huge moments. He's been part of a treble-winning side. But I look at the four above him, and I think in terms of their 2023 as an isolated period, I would suggest they've outperformed him based on their levels.
I have to disagree. Manchester City's win percentage with Rodri is 75%. Without, it's 20%. This is Man City.
That is
Goals
insane,
scored per game with Rodri 2.6, without 1.4. Goals conceded per game with him 0.9, without 1.6. No Man City player played more games last season than Rodri with 56. Champions League winner.
For a
Maybe I should
CDM,
have
the
gone
numbers
higher,
speak for themselves because it's quite hard to. The metrics quite difficult to track for a player that plays in this position. But you look at Man City team where KDB's been out for the whole of the beginning of the season. You look at Man City team where Gundogan, their match winner's gone, and Rodri is a match winner, whether it's by chipping in with goals or just his incredible range of passing, his ability to kind of drop in between the centre backs when the attacking players go forward. He can do absolutely everything. He's higher on my list, and I feel like in terms of importance to a team, there might not be anybody on this list who's more important to their team than Rodri.
Okay. Let's keep going then. So you've not got Rodri in fourth?
No,
Okay.
so in fourth, I've got Bukayo Saka. We've talked about him multiple times, but yeah, Saka's fourth on mine.
Second and fourth on your list. I've got Mohamed Salah in fourth on my list.
He's third on mine.
He's third. You gave me a...
Oh, sorry, I've gone straight in. Let's go 3-2-1 now.
So I've gone for Salah. I think, first of all, let me reel off his stats to make me look as stupid as possible. And I know Liverpool fans, let's be honest, we're all petrified Liverpool fans. and I know you're going to come for me, okay? And I get it.
I've had it all week.
Yes, I bet. Does the fact that Man City won a treble take away from his credentials in the last 12 months? 39 goal contributions in 2023, the third most of any player in Europe's top 5 leagues. His rankings in the last 12 months are a joke. Non-penalty goals per 90, 0.52, top 2%. Goals per 90, 0.66, top 1%. Assists per 90, 0.49, top 1%. Goals and assists per 90, 1.09, highest in Europe's top 5 leagues.
Come on, man. Like, I think right now we need to sit back and appreciate Mo Salah because I think this is a farewell tour. I think there's going to be an offer coming in the summer from Saudi Arabia that it's just going to be too difficult for him to turn down. And I feel like right now we need to appreciate what we're seeing. It's a shame that he gets dragged into arguments when Eden Hazard retires. We talk about Mo Salah and how he's not as good as Eden Hazard technically. This guy, since he's come into the Premier League, has absolutely balled. And 2023 is just a continuation of what Mo Salah's been doing for the last 5-6 seasons. He is an incredible footballer that without him, Liverpool are not. There's the Liverpool pre-Mo Salah as Liverpool post-Mo Salah. They are two very different things. The first season he comes in, everyone thinks it's a fluke. He scores all those goals and he's just continued to do it. And maybe he doesn't necessarily pass the eye test all the time, but when you need a goal against your boys on the weekend, Mo Salah will deliver and give you numbers.
What is the eye test, though, when you consider someone like Salah?
Yeah.
Because of his numbers as well.
Yeah.
It's like, you talk about players embodying a club. You know, I obviously, we're in the present day with Klopp, with Salah at Liverpool now. And you talk about Liverpool's history, you talk about the managers they've had, you talk about Gerrard, Carragher, etc. In 20 or 30 years' time, Mohamed Salah is up there with Liverpool greats, unquestionably.
Of course.
And then you compare it to, I mean, sorry to bring this up, you look at him at Chelsea, you couldn't have foreseen this. It wasn't there.
Micah Richards knew.
You know,
Micah Richards said he's sorry if you're
it's mad. Like, when you actually think about it, obviously the Kevin De Bruyne thing at Chelsea is one of those huge errors, getting rid of him, and he's gone to City, he's done what he's done. But you look at what Salah has been able to achieve at Liverpool
insane.
compared to the way that he was perceived at Chelsea, it just isn't something that you would...
He's going to change his list.
This is the problem, though. We've got so many quality players in the league. You could chop and change all day.
He's just undeniable. And like, you say Liverpool are playing the 3 p.m. kickoff and you haven't watched it, you can almost put your money or put your house on the fact that Salah's got a goal or assist.
So here's the difficulty. So I put there were 3 players. I was like, they have to be for this year. They have to be above him. They have to. But now, as we discuss it, the problem you have is that Rodri, for example, we talk about that stat of how they win without him. Salah, you don't see it.
No.
Because he's playing every single time. Plays every game.
The availability thing.
So-
The availability thing.
Ah.
We're into splitting hairs at the top
Well,
three
we're
or four.
going to have a conversation. Let's get down to one, and we might have a little wiggle at the end for me. So, fourth spot, Daniel, who have you got?
Son.
You got my son. Wow.
I just feel like...
Daniel, your list.
I know, but the thing is, I'm so used to getting stick now that I just go with it.
like
Do you know what I
it.
mean? With Harry Kane at Spurs,
Yeah.
he was the star man of all star men. He was Tottenham. And I think, not to suggest that Heung-min Son didn't have the star power, but I think you look at his 2023, there were plenty of people there were people writing Spurs off with Postecoglou in terms of a top half finish. And there will still be people, I'm sure, saying that they'll bottle it and Postecoglou's football's ridiculous. You get all these narratives. I watched Son against Newcastle.
He's phenomenal.
He's unbelievable footballer.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
He's
He's
gorgeous.
got pace, he's
Yeah.
got skill, he's got vision, he can finish, he can set people up. He's got everything.
Do you know what I was thinking? Do you know what he'd be incredible at? Like an NFL combine.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Technically, he's nuts. He's he's like a ballet dancer when he's running
It's
with
insane though, because I remember I think I came on here and I said that Son, like, he's effective down the middle, but he's lost something. He's lost that yard of pace that made him lightning a couple of seasons ago. He's got that back. You saw him outpace Jeremy Doku. Like, what is going on?
Jeremy Doku, he did. Lascelles had to pull him back, didn't he? I think he has got that little zip back.
He has, and maybe the shadow of Harry Kane looms so large, and maybe it's a bit of fatigue last season, but Heung-min Son this season's on smoke. I don't have him on my list just because last season was disappointed, despite the fact he did get to double figures in the Premier League. So that tells you what his level's at. Everyone thought he had a disaster of a season. He still got to 10 Premier League goals.
Yeah.
But I just think that the last season is a bit of an indictment on 2023 as a whole.
Kweku, give us your third spot.
Mo Salah, already discussed him, and I just think, like I said, we need to appreciate Mo Salah because with so many of these superstars, you don't appreciate them till they're gone. And in the Premier League, when we're going through this, I was looking at who are genuine superstars. Obviously, the big Norwegian who we're going to talk about.
I've got him
is
14.
one of the bona fide superstars. But we really lost something as a product in the Premier League when Harry Kane went to Bayern Munich. And we all said, go on, Harry, go and win some trophies. But if you're looking at genuine bona fide superstars in the Premier League, we haven't got that many. Mo Salah is that. And I think we should appreciate what he does. And for me, he's always going to be in the top three of any list I do.
I tell you what, give me your third, Daniel.
Salah.
You got Salah as well. I want to talk about three players.
Okay.
So my second and third, I had Rodri in second, Silva in third, Salah in fourth.
Okay.
So if you want to compare Salah with the numbers of Silva, he obviously wipes the floor with him. And do you know what? I'm going to stick with Salah in fourth. Here we are. Salah is in third place for me because of the eye test. Every single time I watch him, I think you are an utter nightmare to play against. You go into positions where I think I'm more defensively minded than offensively minded, and I think, oh, don't go there. I wouldn't want you to go there. He is incessant. He touches the ball everywhere. He plays in every position. His intellect and the positions that he gets into, recent examples include the last couple of games against Liverpool. Where he's just in that horrible position. His understanding, he will be an incredible coach. He will be an incredible coach if he wants to be. Because we're doing a video right now, which will be out very soon. It's talking about sixes. And so we feel like Rodri would be an incredible manager as well, as are a lot of sixes of the past. I think that's the next super manager is those guys, because they have that mind. And the reason they have that mind for modern football is that overall understanding of everything that's going on. And I think two players have it that aren't a six right now. And Silva is one of them, and Modric is another one of them. They have the ability to sort of scurry around, ability to dribble with the ball, the technical touch of them. Again, the physical side of it, you look at them and you go, they shouldn't be as impactful as they are. And Bernardo Silva is at that level for me. And from a defensive point of view, he wins tackles, he creates, he scores goals, he does everything. And Salah is outrageous. I get it, and it's close. And even Rodri and Silva, I've sort of swapped them round just because I've put Rodri in second spot, because for the year that Rodri has had to score the goals that he has and how crucial he is to that team, I think if you take Silva out, I think over time you will see it because he fills in a lot of gaps for them, both in a game and positionally. He's played left back. He's played all over the place. But Rodri, for the year he's had, I just sneak him above.
Well, I agree with that. And if you're analysing Bernardo in a vacuum, I completely agree with everything you said. We can't talk enough about how good he is. But if you're looking at Bernardo within the pantheon of people who had great years, last season, you're probably naming about 3 City players before you name Bernardo. You're naming KDB, you're naming Haaland, you're probably naming Gundogan. If you're talking about big game, and Rodri. So you're naming about 3 or 4 players before him. And that's why I love Bernardo as a player and probably City's either top 3 player, a City player. But in terms of 2023, I just can't have him that high because I think there's other City players that were more impactful in them winning the trebles.
I think this second half as well, though, I see it too.
Yeah, it's true.
And I think in terms of a player that gets the best out of others, Jeremy Doku's not doing the numbers he's doing if Bernardo Silva's not on the pitch. But also to the same fact, probably because of Rodri as well. I just think for both halves of the season, I had to put him in there. But Rodri overall, I think is... And the thing with Rodri... Overall, the goals he scores for a 6, you don't see that often. So that's why I've got him in second spot. Who is second on your list? Kweku.
Rodri. We've talked about Rodri. It's just the goals, man. Like I've rewarded people who score goals, and that's why I've rewarded Rodri as a DM who scores important goals. A winning goal in the Champions League final, I think that just elevates you. I know it's about Premier League, but you can't analyse that in a vacuum. And Rodri's just, I wouldn't say that he's redefined the position, but he's definitely elevated it. And now when we're talking about the CDMs going for this much, the barometer is Rodri, and the barometer is what he does. And if you can't do that, then people are going to find shortcomings in your game because he's just so good at it all. And then without him this season, City, I know they're 4th in the Premier League right now, they might be even lower.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. He's the brain of that team. Isn't he? He's the brain of that team. So in top spot then, guys.
Drum roll, please.
We've danced around it long enough. Is it Haaland? Have we all gone for Haaland?
James Tarkowski. No.
Yeah. Joe Ward, number 1. Has to be Haaland, obviously after the season that he has had. I think this is an easy one. Kweku, thoughts on Haaland? Is he good?
Yeah. Slow starts the season, score 14 to 15 Premier League games. Fair enough. And we said it before.
Watkins got more goals in 2023.
Fair enough. But like a lot
Wow,
of
is that a fact?
he scored a lot of goals in Europe that maybe Haaland would have probably scored double the amount against some of the teams that he played against.
The one thing, I think there is an element, and maybe you're just trying to find an argument, maybe I'm being truculent here, but like the numbers have dropped off a touch in terms of conversion rate. And if you are doing it as 2023, as we said, Watkins has got more goals than him, 31, he's got 29, 10 assists.
With Haaland, a lot of people want to find reasons to criticise him because he's not perfect, but let's just appreciate him because we're not going to see numbers like this again.
Just to finish off then, do you want to run through your 10? In 10th place, Pascal Gross. 9th, James Maddison. 8th, Declan Rice. Kieran Trippier. Ollie Watkins. Bukayo Saka. Mohamed Salah. Bernardo Silva. Rodri. And Haaland.
In number 10, James Maddison. Number 9, Ollie Watkins. Number 8, Declan Rice. Number 7, Bernardo Silva, controversially. Number 6, Martin Odegaard. Number 5, Kieran Trippier. Number 4, Bukayo Saka. Number 3, Mohamed Salah. Number 2, Rodri. And number 1, Erling Haaland.
And my 10 is Ollie Watkins in 10, Bowen in 9, Saka in 8, Louise in 7, Declan Rice in 6. I've got Rodri wrong, to be honest. I would probably change him and put him in the top 3, but he's in 5. And over the course of this conversation, I have rethought my opinion. Son in 4, again, I would have him lower. But that's part and parcel of working it out. 3 Salah, 2 Bernardo Silva, and 1 Erling Haaland.
And just to give them their moment, Ethan Pinnock, right? I hear you, I see you, okay? Matoma, I think, has been great this year. Palhinha, outrageous tackle numbers. His tackle numbers are a joke this year.
John McGinn,
huge season for him. Saliba, we kind of touched on him. I know Arsenal fans are going to be screaming about that. Any other notable mentions?
The Palhinha one has just made me rethink a lot.
Okay, well, we are going to understand it.